Coaching a team isn't just about celebrating the wins. It's also about navigating the tough talks, the missed deadlines, the underperformance, the hard truths. And the reality is, no one gets excited about that part of the job. But what if delivering bad news didn't have to be the moment everything falls apart, but the moment trust is actually built? Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk and figure out a better way to not just figure out how to get at hard things that need to be said, but how to say them with empathy and clarity and purpose.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Mahesh Guruswamy, is a seasoned product development executive who's been in the software development space for over 20 years, has managed teams of varying sizes for over a decade, and is currently the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Kickstarter. His new book is How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It, A Manager's Guide. Just came out in January of 25. Happy to have you with us, and welcome to the show, Mahesh.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And so I just want to dive right in with you. I want to start with a question that you'll be happy. I save for special occasions like this one. Okay. When you write a book like How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It, I can't help but believe you didn't just fall into that particular topic. It kind of found you. Was there a particular moment or conversation that inspired you to write it?
So this whole thing goes back about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10 years ago is when I first started managing teams and people. And when I encountered my first tough conversation, I realized how terrible I was at it. My personality is I'm somewhat of an introvert. I'm a people pleaser. I think I still am to a certain extent. Although as I get more grayer, it becomes easier to just be antisocial. But but in general, like back then, I was definitely a people pleaser, and those are some of the things that helped me get my first management job. And all those things came in the way when I had to first deliver tough news. So for the last 10 years, I've been collecting my own thoughts about how to handle certain tough conversations better. So I would encounter it at work. I might do it well, I might do it poorly, or I might do it mediocre. And I go back home and I would sit down and reflect on, okay, what can I do better next time around? And those thoughts and reflections eventually became a set of essays that I wrote for myself. And then I started giving it out to individuals and teams and leaders who needed help. And those eventually became the book. So if you really think about it, I wrote the book because I was terrible at it. I was terrible at delivering bad news.
Yeah. Well, and that's how it finds you. It's funny. You call yourself an introvert. I am a sort of a card carrying extrovert. Everybody who sees me like, there's the extrovert. When I go to my some author retreats and things like that, there's 80 people there. There's about 2 extroverts. But I have to tell you, one of the reasons why I wanted to book you on the show was because this is a challenge for me as well. When I was a manager at Xerox and even when I work with different clients. So I'm not maybe it makes you feel a little better. I'm not so sure it's just for introverts or only, even
That's right.
extroverts. Hey, give me good news and I'll deliver it in a very extroverted manner. But I tend to shy away from it. So I'm glad you put it together. But you put a tagline on there, getting away with it. Okay. Uh, Fill in the blank on that one.
So it's part of it is tongue in cheek. The publisher's recommendation was this will catch people's attention, and clearly it's working.
Yeah.
The reasoning behind that, or my reasoning behind that, is it helps you get away with keeping your sanity intact. So how do you deliver bad news but still show up to work the next day and have a productive, trustful conversation and relationship with your team is the way I would position it.
Yeah. I'm going to pat you on the back a little bit and tell you why I think your book is as important as it is. And I tend to, a lot of times on my show, I love booking people that I know I can connect to their message on. I was a manager at Xerox, and I had so much trouble with this and certainly not getting away with it that it made me not want to be a manager. And so I became an entrepreneur. I mean, I didn't want to go backwards within the company. I had moved up into management and just thought it was the bad news.
Hmm.
I'm real good at, taking care of people and nurturing people. But when I had to deliver bad news, for me, I'm a casualty of a guy who didn't know how to do it.
Hmm.
And so it means a lot to me, your topic, and I think it should mean a lot to other people as well.
Oh, and you're not alone in this. I have the countless, man, not countless, at least a dozen leaders that I know personally. They left like the management field because this is messy. I don't want to deal with this, with these like messy situations where you deliver tough news to employees. You're, affecting people's careers in a negative way. It was not for them. But on the flip side, what I would say is, if no company, you can't build iconic companies, brands, products without being able to like navigate tough situations, right? So it's like the iPhone doesn't happen because everybody was nice to each other,
Right.
right?
Right. Well, and I think it's learning, sometimes there's the words and the tune. And I
Right.
think we have to not just learn the words, we have to learn the tune. So how can leaders shift their mindset to see, let's change the tune a little bit, to see these as opportunities
Oh,
rather than
yeah.
setbacks, rather than difficult conversations?
Yeah, yeah. So this is something that I talk about quite a bit with people who ask me for advice or leaders that I'm coaching. The mindset shift that you have to do in your head is, you're not a people leader. Let's say you're a manager of a team, let's say a team of 10. I encourage you to think about yourself as an allocator of capital. Think of yourself as an investment manager. Your company has given you money in the form of people, and their ask is you give them a positive return on their investment. And even though nobody will explicitly tell that to you, somebody in the organization is thinking about it that way. Your CFO is for sure thinking about it that way. Your CEO is thinking about it that way. Your board is thinking about it that way. For good or bad, the we live in a capitalistic society, and capitalistic societies exist when money is exchanged for value of services and goods, and that value becomes more and more over time. So the minute you start thinking about yourself as, okay, I've been given $5 million, $10 million in the form of people. How do I get them to work in a way that results in positive impact to the company from a financial standpoint? And if somebody on that in that equation is not working out, if you don't intervene, what is the cost, negative cost to the company or negative cost to your team for, um, if they don't work out? Like, you have to like think about it that way.
Yeah. Well, you hit it because I think that's the litmus test for management, quite frankly.
That's right.
And one that again, I'm going to tell you one that I failed at Xerox because I had people that I really cared about. I know all managers, good managers should, but I mean, I really cared
Right.
about them a little too much. And so when there were issues and some of them were ethics issues, one in
Hmm.
particular, that really put the corporation in danger. Now, I can talk about this 30 years later, okay?
Right. Right.
But back then, I was faced with sort of a moral dilemma. Do I take care of the person who I care about, dare I say, almost love,
Hmm.
versus protecting the corporation? And I failed the test because I protected the individual over the corporation. I chose people over corporation. And I'm a fun guy to have a beer with. I'm saying it's a nice guy, but 30 years later, I'm not so sure I would have put Rob Jollis in a management position, given that that's how he reacts.
Right. I think it's the what I would say is, you have to be true to yourself, right? If the north in you is going, well, I care more about people than corporations, then what you did is the right thing. You're like, okay, that's true. That is the true me. That's how I want to behave. If the true you is, I want to become a fantastic leader, I want to be able to like run companies, I have aspirations to become a CEO, then you have to like wire yourself differently, right? And again, like I would never cross any ethical or kind of moral boundaries to protect the companies, right? So companies that I work for, I align with their mission deeply. Like Kickstarter is enabling creative projects to come to life. So I'm a creator myself. I have the book and I have a Substack, so I understand the creator journey. So I'm like, okay, Kickstarter enables creative projects to come to life and I can get behind that mission and I'll work hard to keep that mission alive. But if you're working for a nameless corporation where you don't really align with the mission of the company, you're there as like a cog in the machine, then I'm not surprised that you made the decision of protecting the person versus the corporation. Like I don't know if I would have done any differently if I was in your situation, unless of course I had like deep aspirations to climb the career ladder at Xerox. I'm like really like bought into the vision of Xerox, which could happen, right? So it ultimately comes down to how true you are to yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it all works out well until the corporation finds out. And in my case, they did. I'm telling you, 32 years later,
Hmm.
uh, first of all, I probably wouldn't have put Rob Jollis in a management position.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But now, I've matured a little bit more. That scenario really could have been a significant issue for the corporation. The move should not have been made to protect
Hmm.
the individual. I only bring it up as that it's a dilemma for a lot of people that and we're struggling with bad news and bad information. Of
Right.
That's why I'm encouraging people to get your book and to look it over, because we're only isolating one little moment here.
That's right.
There are lots of moments of truth that we go through as leaders, as managers, where the solution isn't as obvious as one would think. So, for
Right.
instance, in chapter one, you talk about detecting early warning signs before bad news becomes unavoidable.
Hmm.
Um, and you talk about I guess what I'm looking for is some red flags that managers might miss about, you know, detecting about bad news.
Hmm.
When should they go after this?
So the so some of the in at least in my world in product development, a clear sign, a yellow flag is when things projects slip deadlines.
Okay.
So that is a clear sign that something is up, and not when it happens once, but if it happens once, twice, three times, then something is definitely up. So that's when you have to like lean in and intervene and find out what's going on, and maybe the team needs some direct feedback from you. Same goes for individuals. If individuals are struggling with finishing their tasks on time, one time, two times, three times, second and third time, it's like you have to increase your temperature to say, okay, something is wrong here. You have to intervene. When people are having conflicts with each other, and when people have conflict with each other, you will hear it not from them, but from the team around them, because they will notice that there's like friction between these two people or these two teams, and they'll come to you and say, hey, something's up with these people. You could just ignore all of it, right? And you say, okay, hopefully things will turn out okay. If you just ignore it, maybe the problem will go away. They won't. So when the little voice in your head says, hey, I think something is up, you have to lean in and find out what's going on.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think of parenting, and I've always thought, boy, you can learn a lot about a manager if you have the opportunity to meet the family,
Right.
his or her family. Because if they're nurturing, you'll detect that in the way they parent, and if they're
Mhm.
a my way or the highway, you'll detect that in the way they parent. But I think that sometimes we can at least get a window as to a manager's style by just watching, uh,
That's right.
how they parent. You cover a lot of different scenarios in your book. Bosses that have to give tough feedback,
Hmm.
um, to actually giving feedback to a client
Hmm.
about delays and things of this. Which do you think managers struggle with most? Internal feedback, basically, or external feedback?
I think it depends on the individual, but I would say that people struggle the most with internal feedback, giving feedback to employees, especially if an employee was working well before and suddenly there's like a slip in performance. Having those tough conversations are hard for managers because they have probably built a positive relationship and trust with this employee because things were going great. And when things are not going great, you have to like sort of change your tone and have like a tough conversation with people or with this employee. So almost always very tough on newer managers. Giving critical feedback to your boss is also tough, which is sort of falls into the category of internal feedback. But giving feedback to your boss is, I would say, like one of the toughest things for leaders and managers to do. Primarily because, when you give feedback to an employee, there's a power dynamic in play because you're the
Right.
boss. Your employee has to take your feedback and act on it, and if they don't act on it, it could lead down to the path of mutual separation. But it doesn't exist when you give feedback to a boss, right?
Right.
Because they're not obligated to take it. They might just completely ignore it, or worse, they might like retaliate for giving feedback for you on you to give feedback. So, but that is like giving feedback to your boss doesn't happen that often. I think it happens more when you sort of climb the career ladder. But yeah, but giving critical feedback to employees is probably the hardest.
Yeah. I would agree with you completely, except for something that happened to me about 6 months ago. I thought I was doing pretty well with the client. Hope they're
Okay.
not listening. And uh, I felt so comfortable with them that I gave them feedback. I
Oh,
gave
oh, I
I
see.
gave the guy who was hiring me
Uh,
feedback on a delivery that I saw him make, and it was some language that he was using. And
mhm.
catch me for a beer or dinner, and I'll curse like a sailor if you prefer. But
Okay.
with a client, I don't. I'm
Right.
really
Right.
careful with my language, and this individual was not, and gave feedback, and uh, that contract ended immediately.
Is that right?
Now, when I say, let me give it 24 hours because it was sort of like, well, that's valuable feedback. Thank you. And
Uh,
then it ended. Uh,
wow.
so,
Okay.
uh, yeah. And I have to tell you, I had to factor that in as a potential lesson. I misread the situation. I believe I misread the relationship. But yeah, go figure. I still think it's the move to make, by the way. I think that's why we hire consultants, not to be afraid to speak up. Okay, we
Right.
have to speak up. But a cautionary tale, and that was a pretty good account. Ended immediately.
Would you? So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
knowing what you know about the client, would you prefer to keep them?
That's a great question. Hey, I'm the one asking questions. How dare you? Uh, yeah,
Because sometimes you have to
well,
like fire a client too. Like, I mean,
okay.
I've had like let customers go because it was becoming clear that, because for example, like when a customer starts to become abusive towards my team and have unreasonable expectations, then you have no other recourse, right? You have to like let them go and say,
Yeah.
sorry, we can't do business together.
Okay. I've got an answer for you. The
Okay.
answer is this: it depends on the year, meaning when you're an when you're an entrepreneur for 32 years, not every year is the same.
That's
When it's
true.
raining deliveries, absolutely not.
Mhm.
I don't need that client, and it probably we could both do 5 minutes on best for both of us, and let's keep this before
Sure,
something
sure,
really big happens. But when business is slow,
sure.
it's tough to let go of even a client that's got a few warts.
That's
So
true.
it really
That's true.
depends on the year, and that's an honest answer.
That's very true. I think that applies to my side of the world too.
Yeah.
If the business is doing great, then yeah, you can afford to like fire a few customers. But if it's not, then you want to hold on to every single one.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? That this is a very honest conversation between the two people because we know that if we were taking a class at the University of fill in the blank, the
Mhm.
answer is let that client go.
That's right.
But when
That's
you're
right.
an entrepreneur, let me know what kind of year you're having first.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll decide. All right. I'm a process guy. And so I can't, I was hoping maybe you could just drip a little process on us, meaning if somebody was walking the dog or driving the car right now
Mhm.
and they say, boy, I'm loving this conversation. Give me one or two. Folks are gonna have to get the book, read it, and don't forget to write a review when you do. But give us one or two process moves that we make when we're talking when we're delivering bad news, And my assumption is, you can correct me, is that there aren't two different models in play. One for the when you're giving your boss feedback, and one when you're giving your client feedback or your subordinate feedback. That it's a similar process, just applied to different people in a
Yeah,
different way.
yeah.
All right. So give me a couple moves.
Yeah, couple of things. One is don't wing it. So think about what you want to say, how you're going to say it. And if you're a writer, write that script down. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously don't read from the script in the meeting, but write it down just to allow you to gather your thoughts in a coherent manner. I know this is, if you're not a writer, then this might not be natural to you, but I guarantee you, complex things will always look simpler when you write things down. I mean, you know it, you're an author.
Agreed. Yep.
So if you're thinking about, oh, this is a complex conversation I want to have with this person, write it down, and you'll realize it's not as complex as you originally thought it might be. So write things down. So that's number one. But even a precursor to that would be don't procrastinate. If your brain is telling you to act on it, then decide to act on it without delay. So that's number one. Number two, write things down and to think through what you want to say. What are the details you need to know? Anticipate any questions you might get. Write the script down. Number three, get feedback. Get feedback from your peers, get feedback from other people on your team, get feedback from your boss. And just to give yourself permission, give the other person permission to poke holes into it. Somebody who can challenge your assumptions, and then you go, okay, now, okay, this was an invalid assumption. I'm gonna adjust it because now I have the right feedback. When it comes time to deliver the news, don't um, do it as matter of fact. Don't try to inject your own emotions into it. Don't act as if you're happy. Don't act as if you're sad. Don't act as if you're excited. Don't act as if you're delighted. There are moments to show your emotion, but when you're delivering tough news, you can't do that. Although it is very hard for people to do that, even including me, it is sometimes a bit of your frustration will slip out, but but make it look like you're genuinely trying to solve the problem, and you're not trying to just be done with it. Show that you want to be a partner in solving this problem with this other person. And then depending on the situation, you might have to anchor on or lean into a few things. So if you're having a tough conversation with an employee, you have to lean into the details on this is what happened, this is what I've observed, this is what I know is true, this is what I know might be true, etc., etc. And then give employees a way out. If you're delivering bad news to a stakeholder, the thing to aim for there is transparency, honesty, accountability, and be ready with the details, including a way out. So if your service was subpar, or your product stopped working for customers, or you have to delay a deadline you committed to, be ready with providing alternate dates, refunds for broken service, or whatever you can do to like rebuild that relationship. And when it comes to like delivering bad news to your boss, again, it comes down to details, comes down to wanting to solve the problem with the other person, as opposed to just like dropping the feedback on them and walking away.
Right. I love it, and I like that's a lot of different pieces there. Years ago, I learned I was trained by a company called Zenger Miller. They're no
Mhm.
longer around, but it was management techniques, and there were 25, 30 modules: delegation, recognition, employee
Sure.
performance, things like this. Uh, and I remember one of the first things was to get a look at that card, to practice it. Don't
That's
wing
right.
it. I
That's
don't
right.
want to bury the lead. You came right out of the gate with that one. I'm curious your feedback on this one. I learned a technique for confrontation. It's a little bit
Mhm.
different than what you're talking about. But when I work with trainers, and we get what
Mhm.
we call snipers, people that are just inappropriate in a
Mhm.
workshop. And some of these workshops are for 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks. We
Mhm.
really have to, at some point, step up and get it taken care of. I always appreciated one of the first line,
Mhm.
which was, I need your help.
Mhm.
And then the second line, the situation is, again, trying to strip the emotion out of it.
That's right.
And even the words I feel had an asterisk which said terrific with your spouse, your kids, the
Right.
PTA, whatever you want, love it,
Right.
but not in business.
That's right.
Because
That's
that's
right.
the part that can be said, well, maybe I don't feel that way. Now we've left the world of facts and we've gone to opinions.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
but
That's
that
right.
was a technique that I used, and I loved the beginning because I found myself sort of stammering and stuttering to get going, and knowing that I had the first line and a half ready to go really helped.
Right. For sure.
Yep. I was reading your book. You write with humor. I mean, there's
I
some
do.
humor in this book,
Yeah.
which is not really all that easy with, a topic that deals with uncomfortable conversations.
Mhm.
Do you recommend that managers um, bring in? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear you say it. Bring in humor when they get into these types of conversations.
But probably not, is what I would say.
Yeah.
I think so. I injected humor in the book mostly to make the book engaging, and also it was my style. So
Uh-huh.
that's the way I write, and it makes for an engaging read. I do think, there's I think in employee conversations or boss conversations, there's not really a place for humor. The only place where I think humor might work is if it is towards the end and it's somewhat self-deprecating in nature,
Right.
just to humanize the situation so that people go, "Oh, Mahesh is another normal person just like us. He's not a boss, he's not a manager, he's just another person like us trying to like navigate this world and makes mistakes." So, but in general, if you're talking about a serious situation, I don't recommend humor at all. But I do recommend it in writing though, because it makes for an engaging read.
Right. Well, and I also, I have people who ask as speakers, can I be funny? What do you think if I be funny over here? And
Right.
the first answer is let's make sure that's part of your natural style before we
That's
even
right.
begin to answer the next part of it, which is this is a very serious situation, and I'm not so sure humor will fit here.
That's
But
right.
it's funny. It's actually humorous to me when I've worked with people in the past, typically very high level people in Fortune 500 companies who I'm a consultant and working with, who one of the first things they'll tell me is, yes, I'd like you to make me funny. And it's like, well, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to make you, I always jump back. How about if we make you interesting? They go, oh, okay.
That's
They
right. That's
basically,
right.
let's swap that word out of there. So, but I think it's your topic. It's as a guy who humor is fairly easy for me too. I'm not all that humorous. Now I'm not morose either, but
Right.
I'm not looking for a punchline. I'm looking again. I'd rather focus on some empathy here.
That's right. That's right. And when I give talks about this topic, my humor comes out even in my kind of live conversations, and that's somewhat what my brand is. So it kind of goes back to being, true to yourself. So
Right,
if you're naturally wired in a certain way, use that way to deliver the news in not in the situation, but in outside context, right? But
right,
if you're like in a serious conversation with an employee, like don't bring in humor there because it's
right.
not going to go down well.
No. Now, do I have this right? You're a Stephen King fan?
I'm a huge fan.
Oh yeah. So and I believe that he's influenced your style of writing a little bit. How did Stephen King help shape the way you structured this particular book?
And I think the not just this book, but the way I write is the way again, I'm not close to Stephen King's writing mastery at all. Not even close, right? Not so just with
We got that taken care of. Not
get
the
that taken care of,
so
right?
noted.
The emphasis that Stephen King puts into explaining the characters, drawing a background for them, explaining their situations, and creating a narrative that is compelling and pulls the readers in. I tend to use that even when I'm writing business related documents or presentations. I try to provide context. I try to provide, imagery that will help people understand the topic. And I try to have every narrative be somewhat like a story. Here's the beginning, here's the good people, here's the antagonist, here's the conflict, here's the solution, here's the final fight, and here's the ending.
Right.
So I kind of like try to like structure it like that because it's easier for people to follow when complex business narratives are written like once upon a time, blah 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 blah. I think it helps them understand it easily. And I like the way Stephen King writes. So I try to use that when I write like the books, like articles, essays, etc. And the one piece of advice that I really really loved from Stephen King is I think somebody asked Stephen King how to become a writer. And his answer was very simple: read every day and write every day. So if you write 500 words every day, you will become a writer. And it's true. Like if you put effort into it, then you will become a better writer.
Right. And you walk that walk because earlier you'd mentioned that you write essays, that you're writing sort of smaller pieces, that some of these may have contributed to this
Yeah.
particular book that you're working with. Uh, I'm sort of the same way. I just call them blarticles. They're
Yeah.
blog articles
Right.
that I've been writing for 16 years. But when I'm on a book, uh, I tend to outline the book, and then sometimes what I'll do is just to keep the heavy lifting to a minimum. Is I'll start working it out in those articles, in those
Hmm.
for you maybe those essays, which I have fully intend to insert in the book.
Hmm.
But I'm really working on them hard. So I'm with you. I think it's like exercise. You need to hit that heavy bag. You need to keep swinging as a writer, and eventually it just gets easier.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I write on my Substack. It's called The Sensible Manager. And a lot of those essays ended up becoming part of the book because I had
Mhm.
like workshopped them in those essays.
Right.
Which is like a great way to just keep writing, keep practicing.
Right. Well, see, something else we share, and we also share the Stephen King appreciation. Not like you, I probably only read maybe 5 or 6 Stephen King books,
Okay, okay.
but I read The Stand when I was about 17 years
That's a
old,
great book. It's one of
and
my
it blew
favorite
me
books.
away. It blew
Yeah,
me away. I mean, I've never read a book like that before. And
yeah.
to your point, remember one of the things that fascinated me about that book for a person who later on would become a writer is
Mhm.
how we just dropped right into conflict and movement and action. There,
That's
like
right.
you said, there wasn't a whole lot of warm up. It was
That's
first sentence. What? Where are we going? I mean, and we do that as writers. We do that as speakers. We've got to hook the audience.
right. That's
And
right.
so, and the audience isn't going to wait around till chapter 3 to get hooked.
That's right.
We're
That's right.
20 minutes into your presentation. Oh, now I see where he's going. No, right out of the gate. I think Stephen King may have taught me that as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
we share that an appreciation for. I probably should. It's been so long. Read another Stephen King. Give me a Stephen King book in the last 10 years that you like that you think I might like. I'm writing it down.
Um, the he wrote a trilogy which is the Mercedes Killer trilogy.
Okay.
It is not horror. Like it has like paranormal aspects to it, but it's more hard-boiled detective
Right.
novels.
Okay.
So I think it's the Mercedes Killer. Mr. Mercedes is the first one. I forget the name of the second book, but there's like 3 books that he wrote. Those are pretty good. If you
Yeah.
have you read it?
No, I've
Okay.
certainly walked by the cover many times.
Okay. So if you're into horror, you can pick that up because that's a great book.
I like where you're going. I like things that are almost plausible. That's what I love about Stephen King. You can
Okay.
almost believe that this could really happen. That's
Okay.
what I like about King. So I think probably the Mercedes piece would be.
Yeah.
I've written
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah. Mr. Mercedes. That's a good
Okay.
start to the trilogy. You can pick that up.
All right. Okay. All right. One last question. I'll let you go. If
Sure.
readers take away one principle from your book, what would you hope it would be?
One principle.
Yeah, you only get
Uh,
one.
you
I'll
get
give you
one.
two if you really, because you gave me a Stephen King book. But no, let's go with one.
Um, Even though the book is about messy conversations, I don't want that to push people away from management
Hmm.
because people might read the book and go, oh crap, like I don't want to deal with management at all. But if you're in the game for the right reasons and if you derive validation by helping others, by helping companies win, helping teams win, um, So just get comfortable with delivering bad news is what I would say. So don't be afraid of it, embrace it.
Outstanding. And if I could sort of buddy up to that, when I work with somebody who's afraid to speak, on a stage, one of the first things we do is we sort of get at that unknown,
Yeah,
and we start thinking about what's the worst thing that could happen. So for a manager, a lot of times management, not every day was a bad day for me. I
right.
liked management for the most part.
Hmm.
But maybe what we're describing is one of the most difficult things. So, in speaking, one of the most difficult things is a sniper, somebody that's for some reason just inappropriate.
Right,
And that's when we can diffuse that and figure out a strategy for that.
right.
Speaking, we knock that fear down dramatically.
That's
So I
right.
think that's what you're doing here. I think that we're kind of cherry picking one of the more difficult aspects of leadership and
Right.
management. And if we've got a process and we can demystify it a little bit, then it's not as scary as it looks. So
That's right.
I just think it's a great book at a good time, and I congratulate you for writing it.
Oh, thank you.
Really. How do people get a hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, or you can go to maheshguruswamy.com. There's a bunch of contact information. I also do executive coaching on the side. So if you're a up and coming product development executive and you need some help navigating tough situations, you can always reach out to me. But yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Like that's the easiest way to find me.
Perfect. And I'm gonna spell that name, just in case everybody's thinking, how do you spell Mahesh? It's Mahesh, and last name Guruswamy. Mahesh Guruswamy. I got it.
Yeah,
All
you got
right.
it.
Hey, pleasure talking to you. Folks, correct, go get that book, and you know the rules. You get it, you read it, you write a review, because that really matters to authors. I know it does to me, and I know
It
it does to
does.
my
It
friend here as
does.
well.
That's right.
So we got publishers that are looking and saying, let's get going here. All right, listen. Great talking to you. I wish you nothing but success with the book. I'm going to go ahead and read. I don't want to make it sound like this is what I got out of the podcast, but one of the things is I'm going to jump back into Stephen King. He gave me a little nudge. I think it's time. So thanks for the tip on that. And thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.